Ralph, tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
I am a psychotherapist here in Los Angeles. I've been doing this for a little over 20 years. Originally, I became an actor. I think my impulse more than being an actor was finding a tribe. I knew that that's where community was when I went to college. I went to Notre Dame in Indiana. And the one person I knew when I went to Notre Dame was a guy named Reginald Bain, who was chairman of the theater department. I found out very quickly that's where the gay boys were, and I wanted community. And so in a school full of, I thought, all heterosexual men except for about 6 of us, I wanted to find the other 5, and I thought they must be in the theater department. So I stayed in the theater department. I was very lucky and successful very quickly. So I went to New York to continue working in the theater, and I did well there, and I stayed in that community for a while. Then I came out to make television and film in Los Angeles. The second 10 years were not with community because making television and film is so different, and the AIDS crisis hit in the mid-'80s, and I lost the 2 loves of my life, both to AIDS, and I was feeling helpless and powerless, and my work became somewhat meaningless to me. It didn't have the same appeal anymore. So I started working with the Shanti Foundation as an emotional support volunteer and a hospice volunteer. They suggested that I look into this as something that I might be good at, and I listen to people when they tell me that I'm good at things. So I went back, got my master's, got my doctorate, and I've been practicing ever since. I see a wide variety of patients, a lot sexual and intimacy issues. It's what I used to teach in graduate school.
We're passengers in that same boat.
Very few of us left.
I know. And I kind of don't know how to feel about that. There's a whole school of thought that says, well, we who went through the HIV nightmare, we don't want these young kids to know all that we endured. We don't want them to not know all that we endured. So we have to be constantly talking about that. The other side of that is, I would like there to be a time and a generation where the kids don't have to remember that horror. I mean, in the same way that there will be a generation one day that doesn't particularly remember the 9/11 catastrophe, because these things tend to fade, and perhaps that's what they should do.
I don't know that anybody fully could understand the exact experience that you and I went through. I think it's singular in our lifetime as gay men, and to me, the reason why I think it's important for us to continue to speak about our experience to some degree is, I'm in a long-term relationship with an HIV positive man, and the first requirement I had in dating was, I don't want to date anybody positive. I can't go through that again. And he told me on our first date I'm positive, and I said that's okay, and we've been together for 23 years. But I am a strong advocate these days. One of the things I really care about is that we have PrEP on the market, and there are forces out there who don't want people to know how important it is to be educated about their status and to protect themselves at all costs. And so to me, I want people to know what I went through so they don't ever have to go through that again.
Well, we're on the same page when it comes to the whole notion of PrEP. And for anyone who's listening to this or watching it and you don't know about PrEP, for God's sake, go and educate yourself, please.
Or look us up on Team Friendly on Facebook, and we'd be happy to help you educate yourself, because that's what we're there for.
In any case, Ralph, less than a month ago now, at an annual event that takes place in Chicago, the judges there chose you from among 63 other contestants worldwide to become the 39th International Mr. Leather. Congratulations to you.
Thank you very much.
You are, at some level, one of my successors, because I won back during the Jurassic period. Presuming that many, if not most, of those who are watching or reading don't know, please tell us what IML, as it's known, actually is. What is IML? Is it a cultural institution? Is it an event? Is it a contest? Tell us about it.
I think it's all those. It is the current iteration of what used to be a contest at a place called the Gold Coast in Chicago, run by a man who still runs IML, Chuck Renslow. Remarkably, over all these years, it has grown and become something that is sort of the flagship experience of our people. It is a weekend where people come from all over the world to talk with each other, to play with each other, to party with each other, and to participate in this contest where they pick a standard bearer for International Mr. Leather for that year. But it's quite a remarkable, indescribable weekend with 20,000, I think, this year in Chicago for the event.
That's about right. Yeah.
And a theater that seated 4,000 for the actual contest.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very honored to have been invited, and I'm thrilled to walk away with this.
39 years. It's one of the few remaining cultural institutions that survive in the leather world. When you talk about our people, what do you mean by that?
We might have different definitions of this, but I think leather culture is continuing. Systems evolve or they degrade. Basic law of physics.
Yes.
Our system continues to evolve. There are new iterations of leathermen that are puppies, that are bears, that are wearing latex and neoprene and naked. I'm a naturist. It's what I was Mr. GNI Leather 2016, which is Gay Naturist International. So there are naturists there. There's just any kind of member of our community that defines themselves by being sexually free, sexually disinhibited, sexually transgressive to the larger culture, to the popular culture, is invited to come and experience in real time, in real place, not on social media, not through books, but in a real space. 20,000 people who have an affinity similar to yours. When I grew up in New York, we had to find each other by what side our keys were on, and if we were wearing 501s in the village, and if we had flagged the black bandana on the right or the left or the blue or the yellow. And to me, it's like we come and we see each other and we walk away invigorated by the idea that there are countless others who feel what we feel, who do what we do, who live the lives that we live. And I'm a part of that, and in some ways, an emblem of that for people, as are you.
When you say naturist, what does that word mean?
Nudist. It's a word we prefer. Nude feels like it's something biblical, like fig leafy, and naturist feels like it's the most honest, disinhibited, free form of expression to not be covering ourselves up with clothes.
And the organization again is?
Gay Naturist International. It's the largest naturist organization in the world.
I gather there's a website. Is that the...
There is, and we have our yearly gathering in the Poconos every summer. This year we're having Leather Alley, which is bunks just for leathermen, classes by Leatherworks in advanced BDSM trainings, slings, play parties, social hours. It's going to be remarkable.
That indeed does sound remarkable. You've told us what you think IML is. Now can you tell us what it means?
I love the idea that I'm telling Guy Baldwin what IML means. I learned what IML means from you. It means...
the meaning morphs over time, though.
Of course it does. It must.
So, your take on what it means today might be very different from what my take would be, or was, 28 years ago when I won the same medal that you're wearing.
I think people... and this isn't just me, this is the other 62 men who were on stage and the countless of other men who competed in the competitions that they won in all over the world. Our community selects leaders for whatever reasons, leaders in whatever way. They don't need to be sort of social leaders, political leaders, physical or aesthetic leaders, but they pick people to represent their interests, and I think people need. I mean, I studied Jungian work and Joseph Campbell's work when I was in graduate school, and it still very much guides me. I think we need archetypal figures in our lives to help shape the way in which we move through our experiences, and I think IML helps provide that for people.
Did you want to win?
I would have given you a different answer probably every month leading up to IML. I know that in some ways it's grueling. I'm the oldest IML that has ever been selected, so
So was I.
You were?
At the time.
oh my gosh,
Yeah,
that feels great.
I was 42 when I won.
And I'm 64.
Yeah, well, how things have changed.
It is a demanding. It is going to be a challenging year for me. I have a practice. I have responsibility to my patients. I'm in a long-term relationship. And there's a ton of things that I want to do, places I want to go, and causes that I want to champion. It's a little daunting to think of. So in some ways, I was like, life is just easier and simpler if I don't win. But I don't know that that was best for me, and clearly it's not what happened.
Well, it's your turn in the barrel, so to speak.
Exactly.
What was it like being a contestant?
I'll tell you, it is. You know, I talked about the mine shaft back in the 70s. That was a group of men that I felt very close to, and I would walk in that bar and I would feel such brotherhood and kinship and love for the men who were there, who I would see all the time. It's something I long for my whole life. And I'm a member of Avatar here in LA, which is a remarkable BDSM organization, and I'm very proud to be in that brotherhood. But there is something about the experience of being with those men, going through those 4 days in Chicago, that is unlike anything I've ever had. And I'm forever changed by it. I don't know if that was your experience.
Oh, it absolutely was my experience. And I refer to the whole contestant experience and the IML experience as the velvet meat grinder. And like so many other experiences in life, if you haven't experienced it, you really can't describe it adequately in such a way that other people begin to really get what you experienced, what you felt, what you saw. You were a little, I thought, evasive when I asked you earlier, did you want to win? You said that your answer changed from week to week or month to month or day to day. When you walked into the hotel room,
At that moment, yes.
you were clear that you wanted the job.
Yes. At that moment, I wanted the job. Leading up to that, I had my hesitation about the difficulty and the sacrifices that this would entail, and whether or not I was willing at this point in my life to go through another crucible, or if I just wanted to participate and have that be enough. And I've never served myself from backing down from an opportunity to challenge myself beyond my comfort level. So I knew it would do that. But by the time I got to Chicago, I turned to my husband and said, and I turned to some of my people and I said, I do want to win, just so you know. And I gave it my all.
How many people were in your support system?
Oh my gosh.
What'd you guess?
My husband being the primary one, I would say there were probably about a dozen. It started with the guy who had my title before. His name is Dave Barnett. Is a beautiful, loving, wonderful man who from day one said, I am here for anything you need. People in LA, Lou Romano, past IMLs, you, Patrick Smith, Michael Gurley, Tom Pardo, people who just showed up to my house to go through whatever I needed, who walked me through the process, because it's a lot.
You're the first GNI that's competed for IML.
No.
Oh, no, there's been others?
We've been competing for a long time.
Really?
I'm the first to ever hit the podium. I might be the first to break the top 20, but I'm definitely the first to hit the podium.
Maybe that's why it never showed up on my radar.
No, we've been competing for, I would say, 20 years or so.
Was competing expensive? Was this whole thing been expensive for you?
It depends on what you consider expensive.
I know it depends on what you consider
Yeah.
expensive.
Loss of income from work is probably the greatest expense for me, because if I'm not sitting in my chair working with patients, I don't make any money.
Yep. If you don't work, you don't eat.
Yep.
I get
So taking off time to travel, taking off time to go to wonderful experiences I wouldn't change for the world. MAL or CLAW or IML are days that I'm not working. So, and there'll be considerably more of those this year. So in that way, it was expensive, but I am 64, and my husband and I have talked about for quite a while that I will continue to be a therapist for the foreseeable future, but I will be working less hours. I used to work a 40-hour work week.
Really?
Yes, crazy. And I've now cut my practice down to be part of my life, not the majority of my life. And so, in some
As
ways,
have I. I understand that.
yeah, and it's having balance like that is tremendously important for me. And this is a piece of my life that I put second for many, many years, and I did not want to do that anymore. There's a great deal about being a therapist that has to do with the notion of tabula rasa, or a blank screen, or the therapist's personality and private life being invisible. And on some level, you give that up when you do a journey such as this one. And I don't know that I would have been prepared for that 20 years ago. I'm prepared for that now.
You seem excited.
I am excited. It's a remarkable opportunity.
Opportunity to do what? What are your personal goals for yourself during the coming year as the sitting IML?
Personal goals, which are to continue to grow. I'm a relationship expert. It's what I do.
Mm-hmm.
To build relationships with people in a way that I haven't been able to. Social, political affinity. I've spent so much of my life in this room talking to patients. It's time for me to get out and get back to more activist roots that I haven't been able to in the past 20 plus years. So I was a member of ACT UP, I was a member of the NAMES Project, and now I'm involved with Born Perfect, which is the campaign to end conversion therapy. I've been involved with NCLR and Born Perfect since I was on the board of the American Association for Marriage and Family Therapy. And we have now 9 states that have outlawed conversion therapy, and we have a great number left to go. So I'll be able to spend more time raising funds and being visible for them.
Yeah.
What we can do is we can, as licensed mental health professionals, we are now barred from practicing conversion therapy. What we can do is influence the culture in that way. What we can't do is dictate what people consider religious beliefs in pastoral counseling. What we can do is educate parents that it is a discredited science, which will hopefully change some minds.
Indeed, hopefully it will. How much traveling do you think you might be doing during the coming year? And I don't mean recreational traveling. I mean the job, the IML job.
The IML job, yes, it is a lot. I hope to be, I'm so lucky to have so many men who are willing to share their experience with me. Patrick Smith and I were talking about sort of I want to go and I want to judge contests, and I want to be a part of people's experience here.
Patrick Smith, by the way, was Ralph's predecessor as International Mr. List.
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Tigger was last year, and Patrick was the year before.
Right.
Patrick spent a great deal of his time doing political activism, and part of his time doing what traditional IMLs would do, which is to go to different cities around the world and participate in fetish events and leather events and judge contests, which are feeders to IML. I want to do both. I want to spend as much time as I possibly can working with the Mr. Friendly campaign, working with Born Perfect, working with trying to help people in Chechnya through Rainbow Railroad find safety and harbor.
I stumbled across Rainbow Railroad. We need to get those people out of Chechnya and out of Russia and into some safer country.
And unfortunately, the United States has not been very responsive as a safe harbor for them. But we can work through Canada to get people in safe places, even when our government is a bit resistant.
A bit resistance. What an understatement. Will your partner be traveling with you sometimes or not?
It's an interesting part. Where we are as a couple is I am now 64 and he's 8 years younger. So he is in the middle of his career and not wanting to scale back from his career.
I understand.
And he doesn't work for himself, he works for a large corporation. So There are some travel plans that will not include him, but he gets to cherry pick where he'd like to go. So
Yeah, sure.
he's going to Folsom, Berlin with me, and he's going to Brussels with me, and he's going to Palm Springs. The places that he'd like to go, I think we're going to be able to figure out how to get him there. But there will be places I'll have to go by myself, which is fine. I'm anxious to sort of have. When you've been with someone for 20 plus years, it's nice to get back a little bit of the autonomy that I feel has not been nurtured.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Actually, I understand very well what you're talking about. Ralph, thank you very much
My
for
pleasure.
submitting to this ordeal of an interview. It's an honor and a pleasure to meet you and spend some time
Thank you.
with you.
And talking with you is a dream come true for me. You are one of my idols personally and professionally, long before we shared this. So I really appreciate you being here with me.
Most kind. Thank you.
Thank you.